when you left the monastery, you kind of had a hard reset, right? Because you had $0.
Yeah.
And I mean, what was that like? $0. I guess you're in your 30s at that point,
Yeah.
and you got to start over.
Yeah.
How did you relaunch?
Yeah, that was the hardest thing I ever did by far, was leaving the monastery. It was the hardest thing. I don't know if you've ever seen Shawshank Redemption, the movie.
I know I need to.
It's one of the greatest. Yeah, I mean,
I know.
there's some stuff in it's a lot, but it's considered one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah,
But,
it's like a 9.7 on IMDb or something crazy.
Yeah. And Rotten Tomatoes. Anyway, so
Yeah, right.
but like it was kind of like there's Morgan Freeman character in there is like they're trying to talk about breaking out of prison, and he'd been in prison for a long time, and he's like he can't imagine it. He's like, I can't leave now. I'm an institutional man. Like I can't. He couldn't even imagine life on the outside, and it's kind of like that. Like when I first started thinking about leaving or feeling called to leave, like I remember walking down this in a monastery, walking down this road, this beautiful road in California with like these trees on either side. It was like the perfect scenery. And I'm like, externally, it was absolutely perfect, and internally, I felt like I was literally being ripped apart. Like I was being torn in two because it's not just like, oh, this is my job. Like I have been a habit for 7 years. I've been wearing this religious habit. I made vows for a year at a time so I could still leave. I wasn't locked in for life, but vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. I had not owned anything, and I've been on a date in 8 years. Like your whole, not just externally, but every layer of you is conformed to that. Like that is your vocation, your identity. That is who you are. So you just can't imagine leaving it. So that was a journey and a process again to kind of get to the point where like when I left, it was like there was a peace about it and I could actually like leave, that had to mature within me. But yeah, it was very hard. And then
What did you do? Like how you had literally $0 in your pocket. You had a good foundation, obviously, but of business school and all this stuff. But you were kind of starting from scratch. How did you decide like, oh, I'm going to go build this company or do this thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, part of that was like, that journey was feeling drawn to build this community for faith-based entrepreneurs, really inspired by these same founders, like seeing how they had built things that had lasted for centuries and impacted so many lives. And it's like, well, what if we have more leaders like that now? Like how amazing could that be for the world? How much of a lever could that be to impact culture and society? Bringing, faith and God into building something. Like there's just the opportunity there is huge. And you look at entrepreneurship, like there's entrepreneurial ecosystems in every sector of the economy, whether it's geographic, like Silicon Valley, or sector-based, like even DC, they're like gov tech accelerators. And there's almost nothing, at least in the Catholic space, and this is like 1 billion people, there's like nothing for Catholic entrepreneurs. I'm like, well, this is a gap too. And so I just feel very compelled by that mission of building something for Catholic founders and entrepreneurs. And so that was like pulling me very intensely, like analogous to like being pulled to the monastery. And so I just started working on that. I didn't know what it meant, but I started working on that.
One of the things that's fascinating about your journey, if you think about it, and we talked about this on the Zoom call, is I've been so intrigued by the concept of the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Like we talked about this on Zoom, but I remember I told you, I was like, yeah, I've noticed this thing about like Batman and Steve Jobs is like they always follow the same pattern where they start out and they have to essentially leave the city to go learn something, be trained, find enlightenment, and then they can return as the hero. So the example I always give is like Batman is not Batman until Bruce Wayne leaves Gotham for 7 years, trains, learns all of these skills, and then he can come back and be the hero. Steve Jobs, before he founds Apple, he goes to India for 2 years to find enlightenment. It's so like your journey reminds me a lot of that. But I know you told me there's a label for, or books that have been written on that kind of life cycle.
Yeah.
Could you break that down? Because you broke it down much more elegantly than I articulated it back in our Zoom.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, it reminded me of Joseph Campbell, who was very steeped in Jungian psychology and wrote a book called Hero with 1,000 Faces. And he basically did this study, kind of this like meta study on mythologies and world religions and like what is the common denominator here. And he describes it as the hero's quest, where think of Odysseus or all the points you made, or Christ or the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama also went on this hero's quest where there's like an awakening and then there's a departure, they leave, or it's a rite of passage that, most indigenous communities will have. And the rite of, it's this awakening, and then they have to leave what they know to be challenged and, find God or encounter obstacles, etc., be transformed, and then bring with that transformation back to their original location. And so, and that actually was very influential on George Lucas and Star Wars. So the Star Wars is largely kind
Based
of
on
based
that
on
on that cycle.
that book and that
Yeah,
cycle.
it's so interesting. And I think about that a lot in reference to kind of what should you be doing as a young adult? Like what is the purpose of this stage in your life? And a lot of the
Mm.
how I think about it a lot is like this is the training. This is the
Mm.
you're building your skills. You're
Mm.
building your arsenal. Like we
Mm.
talked to a psychologist the other day who was telling us like get on a steep learning curve when you're young.
Mm.
Just like
Mm.
and then you can come back and be the
Mm. Yeah.
the hero. You can found the company at 38, 39.
Mm.
Anyway, something I think about a lot. Just like because it does kind of elegantly give you an overview of what great people do at
Yeah.
different points in their life.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because it's like, can you force that or not?
Yeah,
Like
right.
that, the kind of
Yeah, is it
the leaving and the departure,
right?
and yeah, can you force that or not? And I guess because I think the insight from, to the extent I remember it correctly, it was a long time ago I read the book, but that there's like an awakening that leads you on that departure. But I do think, and that goes back to like, I think there are things that we can do to create space for that to happen, like the retreat, like going on a retreat and creating space for that awakening or that stirring to happen within you, to like go on a pilgrimage. There's for Catholics, well, actually for non-Catholics too, there's the pilgrimage, there's the pilgrimage of Santiago de Compostela, which is a middle, it goes back to the Middle Ages, where people will walk for weeks to journey to St. James Cathedral in Santiago. And that journey is a time of shedding things, of seeking something and being open to new encounters and grace. And, so doing something like that and, and exploring. So those, especially when you're younger, I think those things can be good.
Yeah, I
and
like the
powerful.
leaving space for the awakening, for
Yeah.
that chance.
Yeah. 100%.
The other thing that came to mind, this Steve Jobs is an example. You said Odysseus, but I don't know. I'm just the building skills, like learn, create space
Yes.
for that to hit you.
Yep.
And I don't know, like maybe for some people it doesn't have to be like going to a monastery. It could be like going on an adventure or taking a gap
Yes.
year or like
Right.
just doing something
100%.
interesting and different.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Or pursuing something
Getting
that'll
off the
challenge
tracks.
you, getting off the tracks. Like I went to that month in Calcutta before I went to the monastery, which was very formative for me. And challenged me a lot. And or pursue things that you're genuinely interested in. It's like this doesn't make financial sense. It doesn't. I mean, assuming you have to be prudent, like assuming you have like you're not
The
going to like be
means
on
to
the
do it.
streets
Right.
or whatever. Like, yeah, it can work. I mean, but explore things. And the other side of that is like, I should also say this. I mean, like, there's no right path for anyone too. It is kind of a luxury to be able to do these cool different things too. Whereas
Of
like,
course.
so people like
It's
a lot
the
of us,
Maslow's hierarchy. Just
yeah, a lot of us like, and I respect people so much too, where it's like, I need to work to pay off, because I got to pay for
student
my own
loans,
school.
right.
I didn't have these. I wasn't wealthy growing up. My family wasn't wealthy. I got to work to do these things, and I just have to do that. I have a young family, and I've got to work to pay. Like, that is very beautiful and good. And in many ways, I think can be
Better.
more heroic
Right.
than like
Right.
going off and chasing whatever you
You're
know.
totally
So
right.
like, there's not like a one size fits all. And you got to listen to your context and your situation and where God has you now, and trust, and be faithful. That's kind of the great thing about the monastery too, is like kind of guides you in like to be faithful to the duties in front of you and your kind of state in life, as it's called. So it's like, okay, if you're have to provide for your family, or you have some other commitments, like that's your first responsibility, and so you need to be doing that first before you're kind of like exploring this self-expression,
Right.
or whatever else.
There's a hilarious comedian, Sebastian Maniscalco. I don't know if you've heard of him, Italian comedian, and he has this hilarious skit where he's talking about how growing up he had this like identity crisis, and he went to his Italian father and was like, "Dad, I need to go find myself." And the dad goes, "Find yourself. I found you. You're here. Go mow the lawn."
That's
Isn't
awesome.
that so epic?
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
exactly what you're
Yeah.
saying. You're just like the
Yeah.
duties in front of you, not what
Yeah.
you do, how you do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.